Here's an update since last time. Last time I was making these ram tubes, velocity stacks, intake tubes, whatever you want to call them. So I made the remaining 5 or 4, whatever it was, and got them completely incorporated into some filter base plates with the filters. I got the filters kind of the way I wanted. I got them blacked out. I left the white part on there. I blacked out the hardware. This is Cerakote, so pretty durable stuff. And also Cerakoted the base plates. The idle control valve is situated back there. There's a mount now for that. The intake air temperature sensor is done. It does clear the deck lid, which is nice. 3/8 of an inch, ½ inch clearance or something like that with the stock deck lid. You can see the white ITG logo from outside the car, which I wasn't too excited about, but I didn't want to damage the foam trying to erase it, and I didn't want to just paint over it either. This didn't start out with so many custom options. You know, I really tried an off-the-shelf solution first, which was the PMO system. Had bad luck with it, ended up switching to Kinsler, but that meant using the old fuel injectors and some of the old fuel lines that were custom. So I ended up with a lot of custom parts in order to kind of save this project from a financial point of view. So there's custom fuel rails, custom fuel lines, custom intake tubes. Air cleaners are from ITG, of course. This throttle linkage is completely custom, cable drive. I don't know many people that have done that. There are custom fuel lines in the back with custom manifolds that go up to the bulkhead there. Custom wire harness, TRW. Custom brackets to hold this idle control valve, which is sitting up there. It gets air from inside here. Give you a peek underneath here. These are just quarter turn fasteners that, once again, I Cerakoted black because I thought the red and the chrome just really didn't go well with the yellow. I went about as high as I could go on the intake tubes. That is tuned for a peak of around 5,500 RPM. I don't know if I did this on purpose, but this is the weld seam. It's right there for everybody to see. There's, you know, a couple blemishes in the intake horns, but I really wanted something that was hot rod and old school and lightweight. I didn't want the CNC machine look on this car. I wanted it to kind of look like an old school build. And then this thing here is just a glue template. It has the same spacing as my ITBs. This just allows me to glue it together without being on the engine. This piece is also Cerakoted black and turned out, you know, beautiful. This is the H109 high gloss. Pre-assembling this so that I can use this in addition to the base plate to, you know, line everything up so it's all equal spacing. Make sure the stacks get glued on straight. And that takes a lot of the float out. So now it's exactly in the center. These stacks are Cerakoted too, so I've taped where the heights are, and I'm gonna scuff and remove the Cerakote from the area where the glue joint will be. So we get a nice bond without any interference of the Cerakote because it's super slippery. These parts are very clean. They've been cleaned with compressed air and also acetone. And it's not gonna take much, so the gap is pretty tight. The side with 2 holes goes towards the center of the car. And so I know it goes like that in my car. So you can see how the glue is just oozing out. This stuff is designed for door skins, but It's the similar kind of lap joint. The data sheet says it can go up to 120°C. And I don't think the intake temperature coming into the engine is going to be more than that. And on a hot day, if you park it, you know, it could soften up a little bit, but I don't think it's going to come apart. Like I said, time will tell. I should have bought the Bond 20 because this is a working time of 1 hour. These small parts don't really require that much working time. I'm going to leave it there to dry, and I may put it into my oven. I'm embarrassed to show you guys. This is what I use to do the Cerakoting. There's a temperature controller that's in Celsius. The manufacturer of the panel bond says you can bake it at 60 degrees for 2.5 hours for a full cure. That's as opposed to 8. So there we go. This is a fireproof safe. I baked the Cerakote at 250 degrees. Inside there is a 240 volt electric oven element, and that's a eBay controller. So I've sanded that distinct band on, all three. So that's where the collars are gonna get glued to the stack. Probably a better way to make sure these two things are parallel is to use these equal length sticks. And I've got the sticks cut so it's exactly 20 on each of the heights there. Flowed out pretty nice. And of course, everything's all lined up in a row. That's where the idle control valve goes. And so I need to make a bracket for that. So as painful as it seems, I stripped some of the Cerakote off of the base plate because this bracket for the idle control valve is going to go right there. So rather than screw that thing on, I am going to bond it with the same panel adhesive. I kind of like that stuff, so I'm using more of it. So these studs are actually welded to this plate. This is steel, this is aluminum, so it can't be welded to the dissimilar metals, but we can certainly glue it. So I'm gonna let this cure for just a few more minutes, and then it's gonna go back in the oven for a 2.5 hour cycle, and then we can put it on the car. So this is a 1/4 turn lock. And I think the first time it's used, you kind of have to help it a little bit. That's locked in there. That one's locked in. And then there's also these foam gaskets that are air seals. So they get sandwiched underneath there. When I tighten the screws, right now they're kind of floating. But when I tighten that, it's gonna create a nice seal so no air can leak in there. And then this hole here is for the air intake temperature. I'll show you. This whole thing is about 2 pounds. It was 35 ounces or 36 or something. It's like 2 pounds. The top of the throttle bodies have these O-rings. O-rings will make contact with this surface here. And I elected to put these fasteners towards the inside. I didn't want these teeth sticking out over here because that's where you need to get to the spark plugs, valve adjustments, fuel injectors. Everything that's important is on this side of the engine. Last thing to put on this side is this one. It's labeled IAT, intake air temperature. So this temperature sensor is gonna go right between cylinders 2 and 3. This is the throttle linkage right here. So there's no way it can hit it. This is used for the speed density calculations for determining how much fuel to inject into the engine through these guys. So this is the plate we just bonded on, and it holds this idle control valve, and it's gonna go right there. So these pieces were cut out on my laser cutter. This is like Delrin sheet. These holes and that slot go in the base. So I'm gonna slide a ring in there that's gonna captivate that one. So there's no way this can come apart. And I made these pins on my lathe. I have a little tiny lathe now in my storage area. So there is a silicone hose that's real short, and then there's these foam gaskets. So when I clamp this down, it's gonna squeeze those gaskets. This is not gonna leak air. It only can get filtered air from inside this cavity here. So on this one, I can put the E-rings on first because this one fits externally. When you screw this down, it's a nylock nut. It just kind of collapses these C's or question marks. This thing is very firm on there. It's not going anywhere. And then, like I said, these foam gaskets are compressed. When the engine's cold, it sucks air in through here. When it's warm, this thing is basically off all the time. So I'm just gonna swap out these silver screws for the black ones, and then we'll be on the car. So other than a few more elements of just tidying up and making some of the hardware match, like the gold color, there's really not anything else to do here in the engine other than just tuning. So now that I have the air cleaners on there with the new stacks, I can tune it all the way to red line. I'm keeping the red line at like 6,300 because this is the stock Carrera engine with the stock connecting rod bolts. They don't like to go much faster than 6,300. There's some improvements to be made, but at this point, I'm just gonna drive this car. It's plenty fast enough for me and my driving level. Some point, yes, I'm going to replace the pistons and the cam and the rod bolts and do all those things, but for the next year or two, I am not doing that. I'm just gonna drive this car and enjoy it. Next up is going to be more suspension modifications and more interior things to try to kind of finish the interior a little bit. But yeah, we're getting there with this car. It is so much fun.